The Kingdom of Benin, a West African legacy. Hidden in the heart of West Africa lies a forgotten empire that built walls longer than the Great Wall of China, crafted bronzes that stunned European invaders, and ruled with a power so feared they tried to erase it from history. The Kingdom of Benin, Africa's lost empire of power and art. Before Europe's rise, there was Benin, a kingdom of kings who ruled with divine right, artists who forged history in bronze, and warriors who defended their land with unmatched strategy. But what happened to this mighty kingdom? And why has so much of its legacy been stolen, hidden, or forgotten? Stay with us as we uncover secrets buried for centuries, challenge what you think you know about African history, and reveal why the story of Benin could change how we see the world forever. In the dense rainforests of West Africa lies the ghost of an empire so powerful, so advanced, it defied the expectations of the world. This was no village. This was a city of light, of law, of artistry, a place where kings ruled with divine authority, and their legacy was carved into metal, not myths. The Kingdom of Benin, founded over 1,000 years ago, was one of Africa's greatest civilizations. Its capital, Benin City, had streets lit by torches, a complex government system, and walls so vast they were once called the world's largest earthworks. European invaders didn't discover a primitive people. They discovered an empire that rivaled their own. But in 1897, that legacy was nearly erased. Benin was burned, its treasures stolen, its story twisted or forgotten. The world was shown a lie, that Africa had no history. Now, we rewrite the story. This isn't just about Benin. It's about power, culture, resistance, and truth. The Kingdom of Benin, Africa's lost empire of power and art. And resistance scroll. In this video, we'll uncover how the Kingdom of Benin rose, ruled, and fell, and why its echoes still shake the world today. If you think you know history, think again. Mystery and discovery. Deep in the heart of West Africa, hidden beneath centuries of silence, lies the ghost of an empire. An empire of bronze, blood, and brilliance. They called it the Kingdom of Benin, a place of towering earthworks, sacred kings, and artists who shaped history into metal. This was not myth. This was real. Benin City, 13th century, present-day Nigeria. And yet, few have heard of it. Fewer still understand what was lost when its capital burned in 1897. Power and sophistication. Long before the rise of European colonial empires, Benin was already a metropolis, organized, defended, alive. Its kings, known as Obas, ruled through divine right, protected by warriors, and advised by powerful guilds. The people of Benin mastered governance, engineering, and above all, art. The famed Benin Bronzes weren't mere decorations. They were royal records, visual testaments to generations of history, identity, and pride. So advanced were these works that when British soldiers first laid eyes on them, they refused to believe they were made by Africans. In 1897, British forces stormed Benin City in retaliation for a diplomatic incident. What followed was not justice, it was devastation. The city was looted. The Oba was exiled. Thousands of priceless artifacts were stolen and scattered across the globe. What couldn't be stolen was burned. An entire civilization reduced to ash and buried under colonial lies. But the story of Benin is not over. It lives on, in the memory of its people, in the fire of its artists, and in the demand for truth. Today, a new generation is reclaiming the legacy. The walls are rising again. The bronzes are finding their way home. And the world is beginning to ask, what else did we ignore or erase? This is not just African history. This is world history. And it's time we told it right. The Kingdom of Benin, a powerful pre-colonial West African state, flourished for centuries. It was renowned for its sophisticated bronze and ivory artistry, a testament to its advanced civilization and rich culture. Enduring heritage. Its intricate artworks, like the famous Benin Bronzes, continue to educate and inspire. This enduring heritage preserves a vital piece of African history and cultural identity. The Kingdom of Benin, or Empire of Benin, also known as Great Benin, is a traditional kingdom in southern Nigeria. It has no historical relation to the modern Republic of Benin, which was known as Dahomey from the 17th century until 1975. The Kingdom of Benin's capital was Edo, now known as Benin City in Edo State, Nigeria. The Benin Kingdom was one of the oldest and most developed states in the coastal hinterland of West Africa. It grew out of the previous Edo Kingdom of Ighodamagodo around the 11th century AD. It was annexed by the British Empire in 1897, but endured as a non-sovereign monarchy. West Africa, also known as Western Africa, is the westernmost region of Africa. The United Nations defines Western Africa as the 16 countries of Benin, Burkina Faso, Cape Verde, the Gambia, Ghana, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Ivory Coast, Liberia, Mali, Mauritania, Niger, Nigeria, Senegal, Sierra Leone, and Togo, as well as St. Helena, Ascension, and Tristan da Cunha United Kingdom Overseas Territory. The population of West Africa is estimated at around 419 million people as of 2021 and at 381,981,000 as of 2017, of which 189,672,000 were female and 192,309,000 male. The region is demographically and economically one of the fastest growing on the African continent. Early history in West Africa includes a number of prominent regional powers that dominated different parts of both the coastal and internal trade networks, such as the Mali and Gao empires. West Africa sat at the intersection of trade routes between Arab-dominated North Africa and further south on the continent, the source of specialized goods such as gold, advanced ironworking, and ivory. After European exploration encountered rich local economies and kingdoms, the Atlantic slave trade built on already existing slave systems to provide labor for colonies in the Americas. After the end of the slave trade in the early 19th century, European nations, especially France and Britain, continued to exploit the region through colonial relationships. For example, they continued exporting a number of extractive goods, including labor-intensive agricultural crops like cocoa and coffee, forestry products like tropical timber, and mineral resources like gold. Since independence, many West African countries, such as the Ivory Coast, Ghana, Nigeria, and Senegal, have played important roles in the regional and global economies. West Africa has a rich ecology, with strong biodiversity and several distinct regions. The area's climate and ecology are heavily influenced by the dry Sahara to the north and east, which provides dry winds during the harmattan, as well as the Atlantic Ocean to the south and west, which provides seasonal monsoons. This mixture of climates gives West Africa a rich and diverse array of biomes, from biodiversity-rich tropical forests to drylands supporting rare and endangered fauna such as pangolins, rhinoceros, and elephants. Because of the pressure for economic development, many of these ecologies are threatened by processes like deforestation, biodiversity loss, overfishing, pollution from mining, plastics and other industries, and extreme changes resulting from climate change in West Africa. Nigeria, officially the Federal Republic of Nigeria, is a country in West Africa. It is situated between the Sahel to the north and the Gulf of Guinea in the Atlantic Ocean to the south. It covers an area of 923,769 square kilometers and 356,669 square miles. With a population of more than 230 million, it is the most populous country in Africa and the world's sixth most populous country. Nigeria borders Niger in the north, Chad in the northeast, Cameroon in the east, and Benin in the west. Nigeria is a federal republic comprising 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, where its capital, Abuja, is located. The largest city in Nigeria by population is Lagos, one of the largest metropolitan areas in the world and the largest in Africa. Nigeria has been home to several indigenous material cultures, pre-colonial states and kingdoms since the 2nd millennium BC. The Nok culture, c. 1500 BC, marks one of the earliest known civilizations in the region. The Hausa kingdoms inhabited the north, with the Edo Kingdom of Benin in the south and Igbo Kingdom of Nri in the southeast. In the southwest, the Yoruba Ife Empire was succeeded by the Oyo Empire. The present-day territory of Nigeria was home to a vast array of city-states. In the early 19th century, the Fula Jihads culminated in the Sokoto Caliphate. The modern state originated with British colonization in the 19th century, taking its present territorial shape with the merging of the Southern Nigeria Protectorate and the Northern Nigeria Protectorate in 1914. The British set up administrative and legal structures and incorporated traditional monarchs as a form of indirect rule. Nigeria became a formally independent federation on October 1, 1960. It experienced a civil war from 1967 to 1970, followed by a succession of military dictatorships and democratically elected civilian governments until achieving a stable government in the 1999 Nigerian presidential election. Nigeria is a multinational state inhabited by more than 250 ethnic groups speaking 500 distinct languages, all identifying with a wide variety of cultures. The three largest ethnic groups are the Hausa in the north, Yoruba in the west, and Igbo in the east, together constituting over 60% of the total population. The official language is English, chosen to facilitate linguistic unity at the national level. Nigeria's constitution ensures de jure freedom of religion, and it is home to some of the world's largest Muslim and Christian populations. Nigeria is divided roughly in half between Muslims who live mostly in the north part of the country and Christians, who live mostly in the south. Indigenous religions such as those native to the Igbo and Yoruba ethnicities are in the minority. Nigeria is a regional power in Africa and a middle power in international affairs. Nigeria's economy is the fourth largest in Africa, the 53rd largest in the world by nominal GDP, and 27th largest by PPP. Nigeria is often referred to as the Giant of Africa by its citizens due to its large population and economy, and is considered to be an emerging market by the World Bank. Nigeria is a founding member of the African Union and a member of many international organizations, including the United Nations, the Commonwealth of Nations, and the Economic Community of West African States, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, and OPEC. It is also a member of the Informal Mint Group of countries and is one of the next 11 economies. In the 15th and 16th centuries, the empire reached the height of its prosperity, expanding its territory, trading with European powers, and creating a remarkable artistic legacy in cast bronze, iron, brass, carved ivory, and other materials. By the 1st century BC, the Benin territory was partially agricultural, and it became primarily agricultural by around AD 500, but hunting and gathering of animals still remained important. Also by AD 500, iron was in use by the inhabitants of the Benin territory. Benin City, formerly Edo, sprang up by around AD 1000 and was located in a forest that could be easily defended. The dense vegetation and narrow paths made the city easy to defend against attacks. The rainforest helped in the development of the city because of its vast resources that could be exploited: fish from rivers and creeks, animals to hunt, leaves for roofing, plants for medicine, ivory for carving and trading, and wood for boat building. However, domesticated animals could not survive due to a disease spread by tsetse flies. After centuries of exposure, some animals, such as cattle and goats, developed a resistance to the disease. The earliest organized polity in the region that would become Benin was Igbo, which coalesced from existing autonomous communities in the late 1st millennium CE. The ruler was called Ajiso, the ruler of the sky. The Ijiso were responsible for putting in place many of the cultural and social traditions that have shaped Benin up to the present. Around the 13th century CE, Ajiso Owodo was overthrown by the people of Benin after a tumultuous and incompetent reign. In his place, they chose Evian, a popular and powerful Ajifa, earth priest and chief of the local Ifa people, as Okivbo, or head of state. Evian's later attempt to pass power to his son Ojiamwin, thereby creating a new royal dynasty, was resisted. The Edianevbo ruling council of chiefs refused to sanction the move and sent emissaries requesting that a prince of Ile Ife restore order and legitimacy to their throne. Historical traditions in Benin diverge on the details of these events. The official tradition records that Oranmian, son of Odujawa, accepted the council's invitation. His arrival marked the beginning of the new dynasty and the establishment of the title Oba for the rulers of Benin. This version serves as a stock narrative used by the leaders of the Ife Empire to explain and justify the expansion of their cultural and economic sphere of influence into Igbo during this period. Another tradition, first recorded in the 1970s, provides a different story. While several versions exist, they all argue that the founding Oba was not a Yoruba, but was instead the son or grandson of Ajiso Owodo, natives of Benin who were in exile in Ife. Some go further, claiming that Owodo's son Ekalatterhan and Odujawa are the same person, and therefore that the Edo were responsible for the foundation or organization of Alife. Historians generally see these alternative accounts as recent inventions or distortions of older historical traditions in response to the dynamics of modern Nigerian society. Whether he was ethnically Yoruba or the son of an Edo exile, Oramian's claim to the throne was not universally acknowledged. Ojiamwin, son of Evian, had many supporters in the Ifo wards of the city and likely held power when Oramian arrived. A battle ensued between the two sides, with the newcomers, supported by the Edian Evbo, managing to enter the city. Despite his victory, Oramian struggled to master the complex politics of the divided kingdom, particularly since he was a foreigner. He married Erinwind, daughter of a local chief, and they had a son Yuka. Exasperated and desiring to rule in Ife, Oramian abdicated the throne of Benin in favor of his son, saying that only a native could rule effectively. Yuka was crowned the first Oba of Benin, using special regalia sent by his father from Ife, and several local chiefs were appointed to help the young king rule. The Kingdom of Dahomey was a West African kingdom located within present-day Benin that existed from approximately 1600 until 1904. It developed on the Abumi Plateau amongst the Fon people in the early 17th century and became a regional power in the 18th century by expanding south to conquer key cities like Wida belonging to the Kingdom of Wida on the Atlantic coast, which granted it unhindered access to the tricontinental Atlantic slave trade. For much of the middle 19th century, the Kingdom of Dahomey became a key regional state, after eventually ending tributary status to the Oyo Empire. European visitors extensively documented the kingdom, and it became one of the most familiar African nations known to Europeans. The Kingdom of Dahomey was an important regional power that had an organized domestic economy built on conquest and slave labor. Significant international trade and diplomatic relations with Europeans, a centralized administration, taxation systems, and an organized military. Notable in the kingdom were significant artwork, an all-female military unit called the Dahomey Amazons by European observers, and the elaborate religious practices of Vodun. The growth of Dahomey coincided with the growth of the Atlantic slave trade, and it became known to Europeans as a major supplier of slaves. Dahomey was a highly militaristic society constantly organized for warfare. It captured captives during wars and raids against neighboring societies and sold them into the Atlantic slave trade in exchange for European goods such as rifles, gunpowder, fabrics, cowrie shells, tobacco, pipes, and alcohol. Other captives became slaves in Dahomey, where they worked on royal plantations or were killed in human sacrifices during the festival celebrations known as the annual customs of Dahomey. The annual customs of Dahomey involved significant collection and distribution of gifts and tribute, religious voting ceremonies, military parades, and discussions by dignitaries about the future for the kingdom. In the 1840s, Dahomey began to face decline with British pressure to abolish the slave trade, which included the anti-slavery blockade of Africa by the Royal Navy's West Africa Squadron. Dahomey was also weakened after facing crushing defeats at the hands of Abeokuta, a Yoruba city-state which was founded by the Oyo Empire refugees migrating southward. Dahomey later began experiencing territorial disputes with France, which led to the war in 1890 and part of the kingdom becoming a French protectorate. The kingdom fell 4 years later, when renewed fighting resulted in the last king, Bihanzin, to be overthrown and the country annexed into French West Africa. French Dahomey would gain independence in 1960 as the Republic of Dahomey, which would rename itself Benin in 1975. Edo, officially known as Edo State, is a state in the South-South geopolitical zone of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. As of 2024, the state was ranked as the 20th most populous state, 5,250,000 in Nigeria. The estimated state population is around 4,777,000 in 2021. Edo State is the 21st largest state by landmass in Nigeria. The state's capital and largest city, Benin City, is the fourth largest city in Nigeria and the center of the country's rubber industry. Created in 1991 from the former Bendel state, it is also known as the heartbeat of the nation. Edo State borders Kogi State to the north for 133 kilometers and across the Niger River for 81 kilometers to the northeast, and Anambra State to the east for about 4 km across the Niger River, Delta State to the southeast and south for 350 kilometers, 218 miles, and Ondo State to the west. The modern borders of Edo State encompass regions that were formerly the site of various empires and kingdoms of the Second Dynasty formed in the 11th century AD, the Benin Empire. The ancient city of Edo, the site of modern-day Benin City, was home to some of the largest earthworks in the world. In 1897, the British Empire conducted a punitive expedition of the region, destroying most of the ancient city of Edo and incorporating the territory into what would become the Southern Nigeria Protectorate. Edo State is a diverse state that is predominantly inhabited by the Edoid people, including the Edo or Bini, Ezen, Ora, Akoko-Edo, Ijaw Awan, and Afamai people, and Igala people among others. The most common Edoid language spoken is the Edo language, which is commonly spoken in Benin City. Christianity is the dominant religion in Edo State. It was first introduced to the region by Portuguese missionaries during the 15th century. Islam and traditional religions are also practiced.